We're live. All right. I turn the floor over to Josue to explain SRC Reports.
All right. Hello, everybody. My name is Josue. If you don't know who I am, hello. I am the Assistant Speaker of the Senate, so I've been working with Justin as well as Brenda on getting our SRC reforms up and running. If any of you have gotten my email like recently, I already got an idea of like how to submit things and stuff like that, but I wanted to formally come before you all just kind of explain how things are going and how things are being structured. So, so one of the first things you'll notice, maybe if you've already been familiar with, is that we have these SRC reports that are going to be filled out every week from now on. They are in these Google Sheets that are associated with every single body. So quickly I can just pull up the one for Finance Board. Just click right here. And you'll see sort of an example of what it should look like, but underneath you'll find a tab for every single person. For example, here's Liam's. And Justin and everybody else. And so everybody's assigned a number that goes along with their SRC report. And you fill it out for every week. You'll see a number indicating the week of and then the day it's due. So I'll get a little bit more detail about that in a second. So anyways, so the way the number assignments go is for 11 senators plus the secretaries. So they'll be from 1 to 12. Elected Finance Board plus your secretaries will be 13 to 20. The top 4 elected executives will be 21 to 24. And then after that, any extra hired SGA officers will be assigned a number onto like infinity, basically. And this obviously can be adjusted by future administrations to match the sizes of their respective staff. So SRC reports, like I said, are filled every week. So say, for example, this week, the 23rd, this is the beginning of this week, you have the entire week to fill out your SRC report. It's very, the reason why we're going to do it that way is you basically can fill it out as you go throughout your week, kind of putting in, like, oh, I've met with this person, I've met with this student, or yada, yada, yada. But that being said, the SRC report is due the following Sunday on the 29th, on which the co-chairs will take note of who has filled it out on time, and that will also be taken into consideration when we're reviewing SRC reports. Let's see, so now the way that we're going to be leading up to the actual SRC meeting, a random number generator will be used by the co-chairs to assign SRC reports. So as you know, you all have a number assigned in your SRC report. A random number generator will be used to assign your report to a person on the SRC committee. Your report will go out to 2 people on the SRC committee. This is done randomized. Going on. So there are 8 voting members. It's Wangoy Rashad from Senate, Liam and Elise from Finance Board, and then to be determined for exec branch. I haven't heard. I'm sorry. There are 9 voting members, including Ken as well. Excellent.
Oh, by the way, the people that each SRC committee member will be assigned to, it will not be someone from the body. So for instance, Liam won't be assigned to look over the reports of someone in Finance Board as well.
That's correct. Yep. And the way we're able to do this, because obviously we have the numbers. So we'll know, for example, Liam is not going to get a number from like 1 to 12, because that's only Senate people. Make sense so far? Okay, great. Okay, so every SRC committee member is expected to receive approximately 12 to 13 SRC reports. That's how we're fully staffed and fully running. Obviously, right now at the moment, because we have so many people just coming in on board and getting on payroll, this SRC meeting is mainly going to probably just be for all elected officer members. Anyways, and so they'll be receiving their assignments on the 29th of September, and they will have the entire week to evaluate these reports on their own time and come up with their own stipend recommendation. This way, the work can be kind of split up evenly between all SRC committee members, and can be split up evenly throughout an entire week, as opposed to having it all on one very heavy day, which if it gets too long, people can like start just wanting to rush through it. So yeah, if like people split it up over like 5 to 6 days, and you're like reviewing maybe 2 or 3 reports a day, if you're very, very thorough, It should take like no longer than like 45 minutes. Let me see. Right, and so when they finish their evaluations, they'll come up with their recommendations, which then they will bring to the actual SRC meeting. Privacy is of the utmost importance, and so we're kind of thinking about even like any SRC committee members will be prohibited from them talking to anybody about who they're reviewing, how they're evaluating people, or anything of that matter. If someone does talk, then that could be an impeachable offense. This is all to kind of protect people's privacy. All right. So the way SRC meetings are going to go, they'll convene, and so we'll start making just determinations based for all SGA officers. Members will present their evaluations of their SRC reports and submit their stipend recommendations to be voted upon. Basically, the whole structure of the SRC meeting is to just have mostly only discussion. That way everybody can really discuss, like say, oh, I feel that perhaps this person has done really well, and this is why, and this is my recommendation. And that way SRC committee can vote, and then the meeting will be over. So, after SRC meeting, what you should expect. So the first SRC meeting is October 5th, coming up in I believe 2 weeks. After the SRC meeting is done, say for example you don't like the results, you want to make like an appeal, you have a window of about a whole week to appeal your SRC like recommendation and say like, oh no, actually I did do this and this, and that's why I shouldn't be having a pay cut. And then the stipends will be finalized on the 12th. They'll be submitted on the 14th, and then you should expect your stipends on November 2nd. Any questions so far? I know. Maryland payroll.
So if I get my full stipend, but I don't feel like I deserve it, can I appeal that too?
Get his face, but feel like
Everyone gets their full stipend the first.
I'm aware of that.
Yeah, so this is kind of the caveat.
That's how I look at my kids. They ask me questions and I'm like, everyone gets their full stipend first semester, or first quarter, because, if I may,
Please.
because it's very much about like, you're learning how to do your job, right? Many of you have not had this role before, so it's sort of like a grace period. But we still vote, even if you get your full stipend, so you can receive the feedback that if we were to have cut stipends, this would have been your vote. So you can still receive that feedback. But everybody gets their full stipend. Your
Second
question? Oh, I was like that.
What if you're on SRC but cannot make it to one of the blue meetings?
Yeah, so if you are on the SRC committee and you can't make it to one of the meetings, you have to either find someone to replace you, and if they can replace you, then they can sit in your chair. Obviously, there should be someone from like your body as well, because we need to have two from each legislative body. If for whatever reason it's an unexcused and you can't find someone, there is an automatic stipend cut.
Alright. What if it is excused but you can't find someone?
It is excused and you can't find someone. We can talk more about that if that ever arises.
That will arise.
Well, please start having that conversation now.
Finding someone to
Yeah.
replace you.
Hey,
If
Justin.
If you're expecting that for whatever reason.
Is this the late date? Is that the issue?
So the second SRC reform meeting is on November the 22nd.
Yeah.
On November the 22nd, Justin and I are attending our moot court tournament because it's for a class. It's an academic excuse absence, but we'll be gone for that entire weekend.
We may have to talk about it.
That's okay. I mean, is that
Especially because Justin and I will be there.
I also know.
Wow.
So yeah, actually,
It's
I'm gonna be in Disney World, sorry.
Okay, then we'll probably move that date around then.
We'll talk.
I'll say yeah, because it's funny because if you actually look at it, like there's 2 people that said yes and like 3 people that said no already for that calendar invite. It says 4, but that's only because I voted twice by mistake.
Interesting.
But it's
Well-
2 months away. That's like plenty of time to notice. So
No, talking about Thanksgiving.
Just have this plan for March.
It's my favorite. Well,
I love
Anyways, let me just finish. That's pretty much it. There's nothing else. Once again, you should try to fill out this week your SRC weekly report. Here's an example of what it could look like. So, for example, your responsibilities, which will be linked here. I think we're gonna work on adding a little bit more, especially a lot of the exec office positions. But you'll describe have you fulfilled the responsibilities outlined in the past week? If any responsibilities have been unfulfilled, please explain why. Which goals from last week did you complete? What are your goals for this week, and then any additional comments? It's very kind of open to how you want to describe what you've been doing, but you want to use your higher letter and basically the role you've been given. That's the basis of what you're doing.
Yeah, could you slap in the responsibilities for speaker, assistant speaker, chair, and vice chair as well?
Yeah.
Because I know what I have to do, but I don't know what my official duties are.
Yeah.
Do you guys, if you're gonna make stipend cuts, are you just gonna vote on a random number, $10 less, or is there cuts to how to,
It's quartered, so it's by quarters. So it'd be either 25%, 50%, or
50, 75, or 100% is what you can get for your stipend. You can get 100% of your stipend, you can be cut to 75% of your stipend, or you can get cut to 50% of your stipend.
Got it.
Or you can get your trash stipend.
No,
No, you can't have
Oh my god, so
I
it's
used to do
guaranteed.
that.
because you have to get paid for your job. You have to do something. So, it used to be 100 or 50. And then they voted to last year add in 75 because they're that's such a big jump.
Yeah.
Where people wanted something in the middle.
We should add in a 10% for gross negligence.
Is this what finance board is?
Yes.
Yeah, that's why we're here to
Literally, this is what finance board is.
You know, I've been watching old finance board live streams so I can better encompass Daniel Way.
Then let's not do that.
You have been doing some Daniel Way things. So thanks.
We're gonna bring it back to
Should be our own person.
Well, any other questions, concerns,
But
thoughts?
it's not there.
Okay. I do want to point out that we do have a JL that we're going to try to get to Senate next week. Just kind of codifying all the reform ideas and thoughts. One of the things on there is all SRC committee members are expected to come to every meeting unless you can find someone. There's a few more details. Liam, I think you have it right there.
Yep.
Do you want to share?
So the official name of it, or I recommended this, but you can choose whether or not to adopt it, would be an amendment to the SGA budgetary policy regarding the Stipend Review Committee, SRC's operating procedures. The main changes that they want to make, indicated in red, are for the sections would be SRC members are required to attend meetings unless timely notice is provided by the co-chairs. In the event that an SRC committee member is unable to attend due to an unexcused absence and they are unable to provide an adequate replacement, there was an automatic pay cut of 25% to their full stipend of that quarter. Basically, if you're on SRC, 90% of the time you will have volunteered to do so, therefore it is your job to show up and do that. So if you can't make it and you don't have a good reason why, that's kind of the cut that's going to happen there. But they are giving you a grace period where if you can't make it for an unexcused absence, but you can get someone else to come in your place, then you're safe. The committee procedures are basically kind of the same. The only thing that they want to add on there is that agendas will be sent out at least a week prior so you'll know what's going on during that time. And that the president, co-chairs, and the SGA advisor will work together to kind of set the precedents and everything set prior to the start of these meetings. And then in committee evaluations, the main change is that, again, if you make records public or be like, oh yeah, I'm evaluating you, is what I personally feel like that will become an impeachable offense to protect people's privacies and responses in terms of how much they're going to get paid. The final results are public knowledge, but the internal process can be private.
So you won't know who voted on you.
That's also changes that I've listed here. If you have any other changes you plan to make, have fun with that.
All right. Questions? All right, cool. Well, thank you. That's a lot. All right. Is this it?
Yes.
Thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Alright, with that being said, engineers without borders said they cannot come in until 7:30. Since we have nothing to do during this time frame, unless someone would like to suggest an activity, I'm going to go ahead and call recess until 7:30.
Specifically their legislation?
They don't have any legislation. They are coming in with a reallocation request. Actually, yeah, let me go ahead and explain the rest of it.
Wait, check outside the security?
They said in the email that they couldn't come before 7:30, which is why I pushed them to 7:30. Otherwise,
Bye.
Lord knows we'd be out of here if I could schedule them any earlier. I'm missing a concert. Hey, I'm not trying to get my pay cut. So they have a reallocation request for an off-campus activity for their conference. They were allocated a certain amount for registration, travel, and lodging. I believe they wanted to shift some from registration to lodging, was it?
Yes.
But since when we originally did this, we based it on percentages. So a certain percent of the funds available went for things like registration, travel, and lodging. Or I think we fully funded registration and travel and lodging was based on 17% of what was requested, which was how we were able to fulfill all the requests given.
17% of the amount they asked.
I believe
Yes.
so.
Everybody, right?
Yeah, the amount that they asked.
Approximately
Cause yeah, cause like the number, like, I don't know the math for that.
It's like
but yeah.
17.45%.
But that was the
Why
only way
did
that
you
we
come up
could
with
make
that
it
number?
work. That was the only number that we could get it to work where we could fund everyone proportionally to how much they asked for. So instead of doing a blanket cut saying every club gets 1,000, because then clubs that are only carrying 2 people for their conference versus clubs that are carrying 30, we disproportionate. So we did the math in terms of a percentage that we could fund every club at a percentage of what they asked for and use up all the money that we had to give them in the conference section. And 17% was apparently the number that came out of that. So they want to reallocate from their registration to their travel or to their lodging section. The reason why I wanted to bring this before the board for a reallocation request is because similar to the fact where if a club organization requested more, go ahead and have a seat up here and write your name and name. That way we all know your name. So because of that, since we had set percentage for this, like for example, for an on-campus event, we wouldn't reallocate funds to have like anything more than $12 for food. So if there's like 10 people coming to a thing, they requested $120 for food, and they want to reallocate to bring that up to like 140, we wouldn't do that because that goes against our residents. This is another similar situation to the board, in which case, you know, there's a precedent that we set a percentage amount for this amount of funds, and they want to reallocate that. How do we want to proceed? And I think it's an interesting discussion that I want to bring before the board instead of making a blanket choice on that, since it could have repercussions for how many people request in the future, how much they request for, knowing if they can reallocate to different certain sections, and that kind of stuff. Since it's a trust-based system, that's why I wanted to bring it up.
There was an email this morning that I did forward to everyone.
Yes. So in that email that you were forwarded, that is information from William Blake. He is a professor in the political science department and the advisor for the new court. His is talking about a competition, not a conference. So because competitions mostly got fully funded, I would take that email with a grain of salt. And as a reminder that because you are elected by the students to manage money for the students, the words of an advisor should not have any additional impact on you. You are free to read it. You are free to form your opinions about it. If you would like to, I'd encourage you to do so, but it's completely optional if you would like to. And just know that that advisor will or will not know, or they won't be able to know basically how you voted on this situation. You know, they won't have a bearing over that. You're free to read it, of course, but it's just there. It's an advisor. Take it with a grain of salt.
Even though we're not, I guess we shouldn't officially talk about if they were to potentially reallocate. Can we have like a general conversation of if we are going to hold the same precedence for conferences and competitions, just in case, like,
Yeah.
in
So.
general for knowledge, because that, like, they were like my club, so like as a liaison, I want to know how to better answer people's questions.
Yeah, so we can definitely have that discussion tonight here as well. Main focus was on conferences. I think if we can create a working standard to work when it comes to conference reallocation, we could theoretically apply that to competitions.
But we funded, like, we had.
So my
precedents.
current stance and how I believe now, and I could be swayed depending on how discussion works out, what kind of points we bring up. But when it comes to reallocation based on the percentages we give, since we made an effort to fully fund registration but not the other sections, I don't know if it's right that we shift funds around from that. But if the orgs are willing to cover the additional costs on their own, I don't see personal opinions. There are other opinions from members of the board and supervisors, but that's where we are right now. So the club is here right now. Maybe not, or are you doing one coming in?
Samina will be coming in.
All right, you want us to wait for her, or would you like to?
You may wait like a minute or two.
All right, no problem. Does anyone have any questions about the procedure? Sorry. Does anyone else have any questions regarding what's going on right now? While we're waiting, you guys should have gotten an email today at around 4:43 p.m. from Candace.
I invite you all to come to Emerging Leaders this Saturday at 8:30 in Skylight. It's free breakfast and lunch. Emerging Leaders is a program for students who are interested in developing their leadership capacity, and it really is about centering leadership as a vehicle for social change. And so we're going to be talking about how you can do that and how you can practice that, and you spend the day with me and Beatrice and our leadership peer facilitators. Zane used to be one, but he don't love me no more. So whatever. But if you want to do that, I would love for you to register. Justin registered. Thanks, Justin. If any of you are interested, free on Saturday. I would love to see your smiling face. That's the leadership part of my job. You typically only see the governance. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But I gotta make you laugh. It's okay.
No, that's always my line. I always say thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
TED Talk to my comments.
18 responses.
That's good.
Also, if everyone wants to go ahead and say hi to Scott, he's watching the live stream.
Hi, Scott.
Oh my god. Does that
Is it out now? He's
No,
present,
Scott's
present,
a-
present.
No, that's a proxy vote. We don't do proxy voting, do we, Scott?
No, not because of the deliberative nature of the moment.
Scott should come to Emerging Leaders.
Oh, Scott's alive.
Yes, I know.
I kind of want to subscribe to the UMBC SGA YouTube page so I know when you guys are going live, but at the same time, you only have 19 subscribers, and I don't want to be like that pity 20 subscriber. I'm just not going to do it and look it up every single time.
How long is the delay on those?
Couple seconds.
Alex was from last year.
Is it a couple seconds? No, it's been more than a couple seconds.
Yeah, it's more.
It's like 10.
Yeah, but
That's insane. Just go like that.
Yeah, I shouldn't do the whole yeah. It's like 10. Yeah, you are. The camera's not. You want me to include you?
yeah, no, so we'll go ahead and include you. We'll slide Candace out of frame and you into frame.
Huh? No?
Is
what?
Tori?
I'm in
Oh,
frame?
Tori's out of frame too.
That's fine.
Am I in frame?
Oh,
Oh, I am in frame.
My
No.
Oh, no.
arm is in frame. If I sit up, I'm in
Oh.
frame.
Hold on, you can be in frame.
We want to
There
see
you go.
the award.
Thank you. Very good show.
Alright, now assuming Scott is watching, he'll see this.
Did you just do something inappropriate? No.
No.
You just did the like.
Circle.
Oh, okay. I saw hands, I didn't know what that hand was doing. So.
I still don't understand that, as I don't understand most people.
My brother has that tattoo on himself.
What?
It's incredibly dumb, but it's the dumb things that give us joy.
My brother has that tattooed on his leg.
What is that?
It's like one of those stupid elementary school things that you can do that has carried over into adulthood for some reason.
Yeah, like people say you lost the game or something like that. It's like it'll bring back up everything, but like,
Well, in high school for us, if you looked at it, you had to lay on the floor face like in planks essentially. So people would have to do it during.
board is here, these are the two representatives. We're gonna go ahead and do introductions around the board, so I'm gonna go ahead and start, and we will go, I don't know why this was gonna help me say counterclockwise or clockwise, but we'll go clockwise as implement. So, my name is Liam Kim, I'm the chair of the finance board. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a voting member.
Hi, I'm Zane Hoffenberg. I'm the Vice President for Student Organizations, and pronouns, and I'm a voting member on the board.
Hi, I'm Victor Bergosh. I'm a finance board representative. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm also a voting member.
I'm Justin Connor, Vice Chair of the Finance Board. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a voting member.
Hi, I'm Elsa Amir. I'm a finance board rep. I'm a voting member and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Mahal Khalid. I'm a voting member and a finance board rep.
Tori Heasley, I'm the coordinator for student organization engagement. I have to distinguish that since I use she, her pronouns. I serve as an advisor. I am not a voting member.
Hi, I'm Courtney Campbell. I'm the coordinator for student organization development. I use she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm not a voting member.
Candace Martinez, I'm assistant director for leadership and governance. I also serve as the SGA advisor, she, her pronouns, and I'm not a voting member.
I'm Jamie. I'm the president of EWB, and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi everyone, I'm Samina. I'm the treasurer for EWB and I use she, her pronouns.
Hi, I'm Michael Chapman. I'm a finance board representative, and I also vote.
I'm Dean. I'm the secretary of the finance board. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm not voting member.
You guys are going to have about 3 minutes to discuss basic nature of your request. The board's already been semi-informed of the situation that's going on, but since you guys are here, I want to explain that. After 3 minutes, we'll move into a period of discussion for finance board reps. But if 3 minutes pass and you feel like you still have more to say, just let us know. We can vote to extend that time for you. So whenever you're ready, you're ready to start.
So for Engineers Without Borders, we basically this is about a conference that we're registering for in November, and we requested about $1,650 for so we requested for lodging, transportation, and registration. Registration we got fully funded. In June, we requested for registration for about 10 people, and we got fully funded for that. But we ended up only using, or only registering 6 people. So we have a lot of those funds left over. And for lodging, we requested about $1,650 for the 6 people that are gonna attend the conference, and we got about $280, which is about 17% of the estimated cost. And our request is that we reallocate some of the funds from registration into lodging, just because it would make it a more make the event more accessible to more people and more members of Engineers Without Borders, and kind of further our mission to connect with chapters across the United States and just increase our networking opportunities. Yeah.
Not really. I guess in the spring last year when we created our budget for this fall, we didn't really have a way to know how many members would go. We only sent 2 people last year because it was all the way in San Francisco. But since it was in Pittsburgh this year within driving distance, we are hoping to send as many people as we could. But when we inquired about interest in going, we only got 6 people who said they were interested and available.
One of the other things that I think is really important to consider for conferences is the amount of people who are attending. So one of the things that we're requesting is for the SGA to kind of reconsider the percentage of funding that you give for lodging versus registration. Like if there's like less than 10 people attending, it would be wise to, I guess, allocate more funds for it or for lodging, just so that it's more accessible to more people. If the number is more than 10, I understand 17% going, only 17% going towards lodging, but if there's less than 10, I don't know, if you guys want to like come up with a number.
Anything else you'd like to say? this time we'll be entering into discussion. Yes?
Can we be allowed to question
Oh, yes. We'll enter a period of question and answer. So during this time, members of the representatives will be asking you guys questions. Just go ahead and answer, and after that, move into discussion. Are there any questions for the org at this time?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but at some point you said that the extra funding for lodging will be used to open up your conference to more members? Did you say?
No.
Did I get that? Okay.
I think she might have said that, but I don't think that's what we meant.
Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. So 6 people are going. How much more money are you asking for lodging?
Oh, we're not asking for more money. We're just asking for the money the extra money that we have from registration
Yeah.
to go into lodging.
Which, that amount is $13.50 that we had extra that we would like to transfer into the lodging costs.
And how many rooms would you be getting with this?
3 rooms?
Yeah, 3 rooms for 6 people.
When I met with you earlier, you said that there was one person who was gonna get funded through outside scholarship. So are you taking 7 people and then you're asking for 6, or so you're only funding actually 5 people?
So we have to fund the lodging costs for all 6 people, but we are only funding 5 people worth of registration costs through the SGA funding that we receive.
Do you remember off the top of your head how much registration was per person?
$250.
$250.
Are there any other questions for the board? Or for the board? Are there any other questions for the org? All right.
Can I ask you one more question?
Go ahead.
Wait, so, when you, submitted the budget, did you calculate all your costs for 8 people?
We're 10 people.
Oh, for,
The form says 8 people. Estimated.
Oh, did we change it?
I don't exactly know.
It was a long time ago.
yeah, 'cause it says for registration it was 2,600, which,
Is 8
I
people.
don't know that, but yeah. No, but if it's, hold on, I'm done, hold on, wait. 250 times 8 would be 2,000, so I'm assuming that you did it for, wait,
They might have,
10, but why, do you know how you came to the, cause it's 10.4 people for registration.
It's a little over.
Yeah, I mean,
It might have been, that was, the 250 is for the early bird registration. So
Okay.
I might have done the regular, I don't remember.
okay. I was curious.
the numbers discussion could also count for the scholarship. You might have to take the thing off, but switch to the board. I don't think it's as important since we know how many are.
Yeah, okay.
And we're not allocating any money. But are there any other questions for the org? Alright, at this point we're gonna enter a period of discussion. During discussion, only voting members and finance representatives can talk. But after our discussion, there'll be a time to address anything. So if you hear something that feels off, or you feel like we've said something that misrepresented you, just write it down, take note of it, and you'll be given a chance to bring that back up to the board later. Alright. So I'd like to open up discussion of this order. Does anyone have any points they'd like to make first?
I mean, just like you spoke to us earlier and reminded us of how we came to that number, can you sort of readdress that, how we got to the number of 17-point-something %, just so everybody knows?
Yeah, so to my understanding, and I'd like to put this out because I wasn't there when this decision was made, this is from what I can best understand, there's only a certain amount of funding that we could give when it came to conferences, because the request for conferences is, I want to say, yeah, $50,000 to $70,000 versus.
It was more than that.
No, it was a lot more than that. I'm gonna pull those numbers just so you have a reference point, but basically we had a limited amount that we actually could fund for conferences, and because of that, we had to find cuts where we could make them. We didn't feel it was fair to do any blanket amount cuts, because you had a conference where you would have 10 people going, whereas other organizations have conferences where they're planning on sending 30 to 35 people in. So it didn't make sense to do everyone gets a $1,000 cut and we're fine. Because then that would negatively affect your org versus for them it wouldn't really be as much of a drop in the bucket. I know at least one requested $33,000. So because of that, we tried to do percentage cuts. That way each org would get kind of impacted the the same. We did it in the best way that we could to prevent, to allow that you guys could still go on this event, but I don't know how to explain it very well, but still, like, we wouldn't over allocate since we don't have the money to do so. So that 17% probably came out of looking at the totals for how much was being requested, how much we could give, and then it was around 70%, and we distributed that out to each of the organizations. So every organization that requested was first primarily cut down to the registration cost for 10 members, and then 17% was how much we could give going off of that. And again, the amount that we would like to have given you is everything. If we had the power, if we had the budget to, and you guys said, hey, we need like $20,000, we would just be like, here you go. But unfortunately, we don't have the money to do that, which is why we had to make the cuts that we did. But let me see if I can pull up the amount that was requested versus how much we could give.
And while I'm gonna pull that up, the reason that we prioritize, like you were asking about sort of switching the order, like priority of what, like lodging over like transportation or whatever, but there's like I don't know exactly what rule it is, but it's written down in some bylaw, budgetary statute thing that we have to prioritize like registration costs first, and then I believe it's lodging and then transportation. Is that correct?
Yeah. So so while it's not written down in bylaws, it's a priority that we've given in terms of when it comes to lodging and travel costs. Those are second priority to actually being able to go. Because in our board's mind, it doesn't matter if we can give you all the money to get there and to have you stay there if we don't give you the money to actually participate in the conference, which is why we prioritize registration.
Can I ask you again what the registration fee per person is?
Was $325 the
Original amount, because that's what you have on your form here.
that might have been the non-early bird, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when it comes to conferences, $80,000 of conference cost was requested, versus how much we could give out, which is
34,000? Or is it?
Less than
No,
that.
$16,025. I'm on the final off-campus sheet.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, I think it's, cause it says like.
So 23,000, I believe, no, for conference. So for conference, we could only really allocate 15,000 out of the 80,000 that was requested. So it was already kind of sucks to have to cut so many works by so much. But that's kind of the numbers that we work with. Really 5 to 70%, although it may seem low, it's not too much of an arbitrary number. It was the most that we could give, just because we only have 15,000 to give, and everyone was like, "We'll request all the money." But are there discussion points for this one?
I mean, I guess the conversation like we need to like have with the board is just, I mean, we all understand like why we were like forced to make this decision, but in terms of like moving money around, like the concern that clubs have is like they're saying, well, you've already made room in your budget to account for this added cost. Why can't we sort of move it around to make it easier for our students to attend? So I think, is that something? Are we going to like make a decision that we need to stick to our percentage precedent cuts that we made, or if we allocated money, are we going to say, okay, well, we already accounted for this money, so we'll let you.
Okay.
So I'm just looking through your budgetary statutes to provide you with some context. So it says that, so it does say that you do prioritize registration fees, then travel, then lodging.
statutes, I say off the top of my head, it's either section 5 or section 6, for sure everyone talks about the budget.
It's 12 point.
Oh, I was so off.
It's
I was
12.12.1, 12.2.1. It does say, based on the total amounts requested, the Finance Board may choose to reallocate this funding if one request type has funds remaining after all budget, but that's for something else. Like, that's not this actually. That's like, you did the conferences and then competitions, but then there was money left over in the overall competitions pot, you could shift that over to the conferences pot. But that's not for this, actually. And it says these rates will be held constant across all funded student orgs and must be publicized to student org leaders. And
One of the concerns that was brought up, like, I don't remember, because when I first initially found out about this, I don't know if I was talking to Zane or maybe Scott, but it was something about like, if we vote a certain way on this, what is going to stop clubs from, in the future, I guess, estimating the amount of attendance. But I guess
yeah, so, and that was why they
Yeah.
put that in there. So it's based on per person. So the allocation is actually per person. So you ask for 10 people, the registration is $250, registration fees that they're asking for is $2,500. If it's 8 people, if it reduces down to 8 people, then really what they get to use is 8 times 250, whatever. They don't get the full $2,500.
So is that like what they take, who knows that the number? Is that when it goes up to?
It should be being communicated to David Brewer. But that is on this board to communicate to David Brewer. If David Brewer doesn't know and understand that and have clear information about how to do that, then it can't be faulted for just saying, oh, they have $5,000 for registration, we're going to register them.
So we would technically be like taking money away from clubs if they over.
No, it's not taking money away. It's you've allocated it for per person, and they don't have as many people, and so.
We technically would just roll it over. And then when we use
So we would
yeah.
take it
You
back.
if they don't use it, it comes back. And if you allocate it per person and only 8 people go versus the 10 that they asked for, the remaining 2 allocated registrations roll back because they don't use it.
I mean, I think the board would probably, we should probably talk about that, because for something like lodging that isn't being fully funded, if a club has $300 and then they're only and less people are going, why wouldn't they use all $300 towards lodging unless there was a system in place to sort of, but I feel like that's a discussion that we can have at another time, but.
I mean, a lot of this system is based on trust that the orgs are giving us proper numbers.
And it's also something that last year they were able to check as each group came in. They would pull up the hotels and the flights and everything else to
Okay.
double check. So that's just something to consider if you are concerned that groups are going to be like, lodging is only $500, but we're going to request $1,000 just to hope that we get just to make up for that. You can all be checking
Okay.
hotels and stuff like that while you're reviewing.
I can't do it now.
I don't mean right now in this
Oh.
moment. I mean, it's a little late for that. I mean, in the process for next semester's budgets when you're checking them.
Consider we get a limited amount of off-campus requests anyway, it shouldn't be too difficult to do those simple checks. True Bob though.
I would check.
Finance board,
We'll check Google Flights every
system,
single time.
whack, survey monkey, broken, hotel.
Focus it up.
Are there any discussion points for this organization at this time? Sorry.
We should
question, but the whole thing about the decrease in attendance is like still sort of telling me happy. Last year they said they had like, what, 2 people go. I mean, I'm not sure how much money they got last year, but like, we probably gave a considerable amount of money to send 2 people to a conference.
Whatever they asked for last year, they got.
It's,
That's why
I believe it was 50% of lodging and travel, 25 to 50% in that range.
and where was it held again? Like,
San Francisco.
yeah.
Yeah, but that woman lodging.
Yes.
I don't know. I don't know.
That's okay. I just kind of want to kind of glean where everyone's at that way. Decisions being made, can't.
Oh, sorry. I don't wanna say that.
Yeah, Ilse.
I don't have anything new to add. I also just kind of iffy about the entire thing.
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add either. Just want to also point out the email that I forwarded again, this morning from the advisor, even though that, as you mentioned before, that should not play a, influence our decision, but still at the same time, I think it's important to keep those points in mind as well.
I just want to point out that this does not impact competition because they came out of 2 different pots as far as that advisor email goes.
I mean, based on your budgetary statutes, you allocate at a percentage for registration, travel, and lodging, and then those funding percentages per person are not supposed to change. If you have a problem with that, then you need to amend your budgetary statutes. Like if there's a feeling of we want to be able to allow student orgs to petition to reallocate between these lines, or regardless, I almost said regardless of what the funding percentages were for these 3 lines, then if that's what you want to do, you need to amend your budgetary statutes, as opposed to vote to do it for this one. Because if you do that, then you'll be going against your own budgetary statutes, and I would advise against that. That's your answer.
Yeah, but when campus puts it like that, like, what's a man supposed to do?
Well, you have 2 options. And if you want to change your budgetary statutes, this would have to be tabled. If you don't want to change your budgetary statutes, then there's your answer.
So how we'll proceed is, if there's no further discussion points, I'm going to move aside of discussion, have a coverage fund. After that, I'll put forward 2 options. One would be to approve the reallocation, the other would be to table the reallocation request. Or no, one would be to table the reallocation request, and the other would be to deny the reallocation request. So I'll put those 2 options out for a vote. But before we do that, does anyone have any final discussion points regarding this? Hearing none, you guys, if you'd like to respond to what you've heard so far, you have 3 2 now.
Sure. So before, I guess I want to point out sort of a special condition that happens with our club. Because of registration costs, like the national organization does provide some scholarships, and we've gotten one each year. And then in addition, I think some chemical engineering students can petition their department to fund. So in those types of situations, we kind of get to where registration, if it's fully funded for X amount of people, we may not need all of that funding because we don't know whether or not they're going to get funding from other sources until closer to the time. It's kind of more of a food for thought kind of thing. And I guess moving forward, regardless of the decision that you make today, if when we go to make the budget for next semester, if the rules could be a little clearer, because I know I didn't understand that it was a per person percentage for each category, and I did kind of have the mentality that Ilse mentioned of like, oh, they already allocated the money, so I didn't understand those rules, I guess.
First, I want to thank everyone for listening and giving your thoughts and your time. But as Jamie mentioned, I also didn't understand the 17% for lodging as well. And I know you guys discussed that in previous meetings. But like I mentioned earlier, I think taking in the number of people who are attending into consideration would be like a better way to determine how much you allocate for lodging versus registration.
And one more thing, I don't know if I'm like allowed to say this way, but
As long as you don't curse, you're fine.
it's not anything bad. But since your rules say that you can't change the percentage based on like if the number of people attending decreases, I guess since we have one person who was fully funded, could we like steal her $250 for lodging? That's sort of a different question, so it's okay if it like can't get answered right now.
I feel like that would come into like those different situations like in front years about where it's like the same number of people attending, but like reallocated between line items.
I know that's kind of like a blurry line, but I just thought I'd ask.
So with that situation, again, just based on budgetary statutes, I'm gonna say no. That you probably couldn't use the money to like shift to help out other people. Now, whereas if you wanted to bring another person on the conference, like you could use the money for that. Since you don't have to pay for that. But as the statutes sit right now, that's the situation. And again, if the board decides to vote to table that, then that could be changed. So that would be another question that we brought up again next week. But again, that's what the board votes on. So. Of course.
And just to clarify too, that might not be 17% next semester also. That percentage was based on the very large amount of conference requests that came in. So that number is definitely up in the air to change per semester based on how much money is asked for in those areas. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's late, so I don't know if my words are making sense at this point.
And yeah, ideally, as hopefully over the coming years, finance board's budget increases, ideally we get able to fully fund a lot of this stuff. Just currently we're in the unfortunate situation where we can't, so that's why the cuts were made as they were. But we do plan on hopefully having a town hall, or at the very least a survey sent out to kind of see where clubs are feeling on if cuts have to be made, where would they like to see them as opposed to where we think there was, just to kind of get them into it. But we can talk more about that. So with that being said, I'm gonna motion for a vote. Our two options available there are to table this. In effect, by tabling, you would be quote unquote approving of their reallocation request. We would table it until legislation may bring amending the budgetary statutes. The amendments to the budgetary statutes would change the per person, probably adding the line to create an exception in the event of a reallocation. That was to be per person. If that is to be true, that legislation will be written up and sent out to you guys prior to next meeting, so you have a chance to look over to amend on that. Your second option will be to deny the reallocation request here and now, and that will end the discussion. So that being said, all in favor of tabling the reallocation request until next meeting, please raise your hand now. And all in favor of denying the reallocation request, please raise your hand now. Thank you. So I'm sorry, unfortunately, we won't be able to reallocate the funds for you in this situation. However, if funds are needed, if you guys plan on hosting fundraisers, we can help you out with that, with ideas for fundraisers. If you shoot the finance board email inbox or myself an email saying you're having a fundraiser, I'll promote it everywhere and I'll go out and buy as much stuff as I can that my personal wall will allow me to. But if there's anything else that the board can do to help you out, unfortunately we can't do this for you. But if there's anything else we can do, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. And thank you again for coming in. I'm sorry that it's so late. This isn't the decision that you were wanting or expecting. But unfortunately, that's just the way it is. But we again would like to thank you for giving your time and energy to the sport.
And thanks for showing us, I guess, that we need to issue informed us about that the money that we give them is based on a percentage per person.
So we have our minutes on that, and if you'd like, we can also work with you guys to make sure that when we send the information out to the spring organizations for that budget request, that it is indeed clear and able for you guys to understand what's going on. That way we can hopefully work this out. And then you can also work with your liaison as well, very closely during this process. They'll both
11 p.m.
On a Saturday night?
Yes!
No, we're out and about.
They're so young.
It's Saturday.
Everyone was like, oh,
Assignments are due at
I mean, I'm not even doing things. If I'm just in my room chilling, but like I'm still just gonna be like awake.
Candlelight reading a book. Oh, you
Nithya,
like, you get
Nithya
meals,
wants,
sorry.
Nithya wants to still be able to turn on the lights at 12 a.m.
Yeah.
Actually,
Actually, yeah.
11 p.m. sounds like a time.
What if you wake up at 6 naturally you have to pee? These are
Is
the,
that-
anyway.
You do your water still. The water's still okay. Power outage is way better than a water outage.
Well, yeah, I'm aware of that, but like, I'm not trying to pee in the darkness.
Get a flashlight.
Yeah, use your phone. Make sure your phone's charged before, all day beforehand.
Oh,
No, I got
also,
separate flashlights.
As far as announcements, today was National Voter Registration Day. I would encourage you guys you can register to vote online. Please let you and your friends know. We are very much into civic democracy here, and democracy is a very valuable thing we enjoy here at UMBC and, of course, here in America. I would encourage you guys, if you haven't already registered to vote, to please go out to and encourage other people to register to vote. Next year, there will be a huge event in terms of the 2020 election, and events happening on UMBC on campus. And as elected members, I think it's important that you guys kind of lead by example when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I got lost in registration.
You don't need you don't need an ID to vote.
And regardless, it just be a regular, just as long as once you register.
No, I mean like you really don't like to vote. I've been an election judge and we cannot ask you for any form of identification.
You should say your name.
Yeah, we ask you
You have to
questions.
verify your address.
Yeah.
That's scary. What, no, why? People aren't.
True, but.
Well, that's the
That's a whole
voter
other
ID.
thing.
That's a whole political thing that, given that we don't have, we have both sides here actually, but we're not going to go into that during announcements.
The student org roundtables start for October next Wednesday, whatever the 2nd is. So if any orgs say anything to you about them, tell them to sign up on the My UMBC page. If they ask you questions about like what they are, they're just a space for the leaders of each type of group, so like the different categories to kind of come together, chat, see what's going on. Here's what's wrong, here's what's great, let's talk to each other to try to influence some collaborations between groups and to get them talking to their peers. They will be monthly.
And like,
Yeah.
like I was emailed Tori about that. I think this would be another great place to show face. It doesn't have to be official. I mean, obviously you can just go in and sit down, just listen to conversations. But again, I think it's important to take every opportunity we have to engage with student orgs. And again, that we talk about the good and the bad, so it's good to be there to provide a resource. So.
The October ones are definitely the ones to kind of introduce yourself if you want to be going, because after that, they're going to be based on topics that they all want to talk about. So the arts performance groups might want to talk about like struggles that they're having with fundraising, where club sports might want to talk about issues they're having with recruitment, so stuff like that. So they'll be different come November for every single roundtable.
Does anyone have anything else they'd like to make at this time? Alright. After that, we're going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. I recognize that I am present, Zayn is present, Nithya is present, Justin is present, Ilse is present, Mohammed is present, Michael is present, along with Dean being present, and ex officios Tori, Courtney, and Candace are all present. With that, we are adjourned.